Alrighty, folks, it is just about Independence Day, and I could not imagine a better way to celebrate it than bringing you someone who is really pioneering creation of small businesses, really watching out for Main Street, and that is the one and only Lisa Sutton. How you doing, Lisa?
Doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Been on the channel many times. We've talked one rental at a time. We've talked about mailbox money and opening these little stores. I like the way you have leaned in and you've gone to the next step. You have a very special event on July 10th that I think we need to talk about. Why don't you share with us what that is, but more importantly, why it is so important and why you're doing it right around July 4th?
Yeah, so obviously, July 4th coming up, Independence Day. So we thought it was timely and appropriate to put together just a little webinar, just an hour, totally free for folks to learn about the independent mailbox business model and why personally I chose it over buying into a UPS franchise store.
Yeah. So let's really talk about that because one of the guests on my show every week, Bo Eckstein, really talks about small businesses. Obviously, somebody I reference on the channel who's a personal friend of yours, Cody Sanchez, really has been trying to open the eyes of the public to small businesses. Really been opening the eyes to, hey, a lot of mom and pops are going to go out. Let's go this direction. But why this segment of the business specifically?
So what I like about the mailbox stores, which I've owned mine now for over 6 years, is that it's a low barrier to entry for having your own small business. For example, in contrast, starting up a restaurant, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of tenant improvements. You're going to have all kinds of regulatory compliance things to have to worry about with the health department and other things, and it's heavy staff, long hours. The list goes on. And I think for a restaurant, for example, you really have to be passionate about the food, the cuisine. Perhaps you're a chef yourself. There's so many layers to it. Whereas, truly with the mailbox stores, it's, at least for us, we're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. When the store is locked up and closed, you're done. There's no work to take home. It's just a completely different business model, yet is one of those totally essential, proved to be during the
Yeah.
pandemic, completely essential business. The mail's always running. And if anything, there's an increase in shipping with UPS, FedEx, and so on because of Amazon and these other
Yeah.
companies.
Yeah, one of the things that I looked at, because I knew we were talking, so I did a little bit of research. The mailbox store really is recession resistant. I don't think anything's completely, recession proof, but like you
Sure.
said, in the pandemic, shipping went up, not down.
Yeah,
In
and
past
our
recessions, the same
numbers,
thing.
yep, our numbers at the store, we had a better 2020 than we did 2019, looking at gross sales. And that's just because literally there were more people shipping out more items, and
Yeah.
we got more mailbox customers because people all of a sudden realized that they could be location independent. So many of them went remote, they worked from
Yes.
home, and or they picked up a side hustle where they started an Etsy store or whatever it was out of their home as a
Yep.
home-based business, and they wanted to use a business address, so they used a mailbox address.
No, I think that's one of the missing pieces that's probably not talked about enough is all those entrepreneurs and small businesses, the Etsy stores, people that don't want to use their home address, right? We don't need any more prying eyes, right? Just go
Mhm.
to the mailbox store, get a little mailbox, and I think that's a nice benefit. I think is genius.
Definitely. Yeah, it provides nice privacy. And at least in Nevada, when you create your LLC with the Nevada Secretary of State, you have to input, for example, officer information. It's officers of the company, and you're putting name, they ask for an address, and a lot of people just input their home address because they're like, oh, they're asking for my address.
Mm.
Meanwhile, they don't realize that it literally becomes public information, and it's
Yep.
listed right there on the Nevada Secretary of State's website.
Yeah, it's all public information. Why
Mhm.
don't we do people a favor? Because again, I think you bring up an excellent point that most people are going to miss the build out cost. So I have not priced one of these out, but if I'm looking at doing one of these, I can either buy a store or rent. I'm guessing most people rent or lease.
Mhm.
So I'm going to go find a shell somewhere. That lease is going to cost whatever it costs. Then we're going to go inside and we're going to do the build out, right? So there's really not a lot of stuff. Back to your kind of restaurant
Yeah.
idea, right? There's some
Yeah.
shelves, some probably some locked closet, maybe some strong doors. You got to build out the frame for the mailboxes. Um,
Yeah. That's really it. I mean,
Yeah.
I built out cost on both of my store on two stores was less than $60,000. And that
Each
was
or total?
total.
So 30K a pop.
Yes, because and this
Wow.
was helpful. I found what's called second gen space. So
Ah,
each of my locations were previously a business before, as opposed to being brand new construction gray
okay.
shell, and it's just
Got it.
like concrete foundation and that's it, right?
Right. Right.
And walls. Both of my locations were already used for something else prior. So, for example, there's already a bathroom in there,
Right.
right? Um, if anything, I had to do a little bit of demo in one of my locations. It was previously used as a photography studio.
Oh,
So
okay.
they had these like weird, like half pony walls kind of jutting out of the wall. And so we demoed those. We had to
Yep.
use a contractor to demo those. But then after that, that's what's nice about these stores is that I didn't have to utilize a general contractor past the demo because everything that I needed for the stores was actually considered furniture,
There you
right?
go.
It's
Right.
mailboxes, it's counters, right? I need a retail counter.
Yep.
Um, the holders that the mailboxes actually sit in. I brought in storage racks to hold packages.
Yep.
And that's really it when it comes to like what do you need in the store.
Wow.
So
It's
it's
amazing.
yeah, it's really low lift.
Yeah. So when I think about this, because again, I've had lots of conversation with one of my other guests, Bo Eckstein, talking about small businesses. You don't even necessarily need a small business loan, right? If you're 30K, you could
Right.
probably get a private or an equity partner. All right. If you, because a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs, maybe they don't have the scratch or the capital, but they have the time.
Yep.
This is something that if you understand, you could go out and probably raise equity, certainly raise 30 grand with some kind of piece of the business, quarterly payouts or whatever,
Yeah. Do some sort
right?
of, angel round, right? Where angel anchor round with family and friends and raise
Yeah.
30K. But I mean, I just pulled from savings that I had, right? And I have other colleagues, in Texas. These two ladies are wonderful. I met them last year when they came into my stores because they were excited about the business model. Um, they utilized an SBA loan to buy a store. So they
Yeah.
utilized
There you
SBA
go.
loan to buy one, but then another one that they had started from scratch. Exactly what you said. They used a hard money loan just to like get it up and going,
Hmm.
and they're going to refinance that basically.
Yeah. I think there's so I think this space is pretty sexy. Talk about a business that's recession proof. Doesn't even need lots of employees. You talked about being open 6 days a week, 9 to 6. Are we
Yep.
talking two full-time employees kind of splitting hours? I mean, maybe not even two. I have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. So, a lot of different options here. In the early days, my business partner and I, Sarah, we were like the owner operators, where she was manning one store and I was manning another store.
Mm,
So you could ostensibly really run it with one person if that's really what it came down to. But the way that we have our store set up, we have part-time shifts. So we'll have someone work 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then someone work 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. or maybe a noon to 6 shift. So there's a little
mm,
bit of overlap there during the mail sorting.
right.
And then that's really it. And then when you have really busy times, like let's say, for example, we know Mondays are always really busy for us, or like holiday season, then you can schedule like a swing shift for someone to work like, let's say like an 11 to 4 or a 9 to 3. Like you can insert someone else in there too, just for that extra coverage. But
Hmm.
otherwise you can run really lean staff, and it's super basic operations.
Yeah. One of the things also I love about this, what you're doing for folks out there, giving them hope, giving them options, is to your earlier point, you've been doing this for 6 years and you were an owner operator. It wasn't like you were somebody reading a book and, big money bags and you paid somebody else to do it. You were in the store. You were, blood, sweat, and tears
Yep.
making this happen. So it's always fun when the person that's talking about it or sharing is actually did it versus read about it, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I think that's so important, and just because there's no way that you can know everything about the business unless you have worked in the business,
Right.
right? So yeah, I worked in the business for a long period of time, and then once we were able to hire staff, I got to a point where I was working every Saturday. Like I would just cover Saturdays, so that way staff
Mhm.
was just on Monday through Friday. I would cover Saturdays, and then I dropped to like every other Saturday. Um, and now I'm very grateful to have wonderful staff and teams, so that way I don't have to go sit the store myself, like the early days, but
Mm.
we're on comms multiple times during the day,
Yeah.
right? And certainly, I just think it's so important if you are going to learn about a business. The best way to do it is just roll up your sleeves and get in there.
Amen. And then the other thing we're going to talk about again, coming out on July 10th, 3 p.m., declaring your freedom from the franchise with the independent model. That's the event coming up. Is you not only did it yourself, but the last couple of years, you've been helping others do it. Just kind of fits and starts, right? You had a mailbox money course. You've celebrated folks, but your IG, at least that's where I see it. You may post it elsewhere, is blowing up with other people that have been successful following your model. How does that make you feel seeing others be
It's
so successful?
it is like so overwhelming and in the best way possible. I just have so
Absolutely.
much gratitude for the fact that because there's a lot of talkers out there, right?
Amen.
There's a lot of talkers, there's a lot of critics, but not a lot of doers. And
Yes.
what I have seen in just, sharing knowledge about this independent mailbox rental pack and ship store concept is that the doers are coming out of the woodworks, which is
Yeah.
amazing. They're literally creating their own stores, and they're popping up all over the country. It's not just in urban areas like Las Vegas. You've got places in Clarksville, Tennessee, and Benson, Arizona. You've got these rural areas as well, which just goes to show that, again, like this business model is one that every community needs, whether it's
Yeah.
urban, rural, high density, low density. Everyone needs their mail, and everyone needs a place to ship out, and everyone needs a secure place to send their packages.
No, I think you're really onto something. You have the heart of a go-giver, also somebody who's not afraid to roll up her sleeves and do it. I think that's very clear in your entire story. Going back to the, alcohol and cupcakes, right? You dive in, right? Which is greatly appreciated. So let's ask this question. Who should show up? Who should show up July 10th?
I think it's really anyone who one so a few different types of folks, right? One, anyone who is interested in small business, entrepreneurship, what would it look like to own my own business? Number two, anyone who's explored the idea of looking into buying a franchise, because I did the exact same thing. I had initially looked into buying a UPS store in getting into this business model. And I'll share, especially on the webinar, I'll go into detail of why I decided that wasn't going to be the right fit for me. And I'm so glad that I went independent. And third, I think it's really also, for anyone who has an existing business and they want something to add to their business portfolio that is less stressful,
Yeah.
less strenuous, less hours, less manpower, less regulations. For me, after owning a bakery for 11 years and knowing what that's like to deal with a perishable product, with heavy staff, with the health
Yeah.
department, just kind of all the things, I was like, I never want to own like perishable
Can you?
product again.
No.
Like that was my, MO in wanting to, do another business. And I was just like, what is like a set it and forget it
Mhm.
business that is always going to be needed, right?
Yeah.
Even cupcakes, in some ways, it's a luxury good,
Yeah.
in a very small way, right? It's a small luxury,
For sure.
but it does require extra income, right? That you
Mhm.
disposable income that you're going to go spend on alcohol cupcakes.
Yeah. No,
When you have to ship something out, maybe, if you're on a fixed income or really pinching the pennies, maybe you're going to choose the least expensive carrier, but
Mhm.
you're still going to have to send it out.
Yeah. Still
So
got to go. Still got to ship.
still got to go. It's still got to get
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. When I really think about what you're doing, and I've been following you closely for well over a year in my audience, I would actually encourage my audience, which leans W-2, so employees,
Yeah,
leans higher income engineers, salespeople, not everyone, but just leans that way. Just that's who I am, right? So you attract who you are.
sure.
I would actually tell full-time employees, a lot of you out there are nervous for your jobs. Maybe you're afraid of AI, maybe this, that, the other. And most of you, let's be clear, are going to keep your job, right? Even if unemployment goes from 4 to 6, most of them are going to keep them, but you're going to be nervous. A W-2 employee, especially a high paid W-2 employee that doesn't have another line item for cash flow,
Mm,
you have a
mhm.
lot of risk.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that follow me, they wouldn't need an angel round of 30 grand, right? If they followed you, they understood it, they'll do the work, they're in the details. This
Mhm.
could be an option for them to create this business. And maybe to your point, they show up on Saturdays just to get the heartbeat. They could probably, fund a couple of employees as the store gets known. But I would challenge people that are in my world. If you have a W-2, you've been thinking about one of these side businesses, this might be a pretty low lift. And if you could follow
Yeah.
along someone who's done it, all the better.
Yeah, just diversify your business portfolio, right? We kind of preach that when it comes to, whether people are investing in the stock market or if you're looking at real estate, like all of those things are diversification. And that's what I love about, small business and in particular this industry of the mailboxes and the independent stores, because it's just another way to, and it has for me too, hedge your business portfolio and
Yeah,
have a line item in there that has proven to be pandemic proof, I believe
yep,
will be recession proof, and
fair.
is a low lift. I
Yeah.
like it.
I think there's a lot there. I think a lot of full-time employees are, especially in this world, seeking that other option that doesn't take away from their Monday through Friday because they're probably already working 12 hours a day, but it's
Sure.
something they could build and then grow with. I'm curious, on July 10th, 3 p.m., are you going to be going through kind of details like what does monthly overhead look like? What kind of budgeting to put? I mean, how detailed are we going to get in this session?
Yeah. So, and what I love about these is that it's because it's a webinar, so there's really no two-way communication till the end where we have Q&A. So it's just like me like sharing everything, right? It's just like this talking head where I'm like giving it all. Um, yeah. So we'll go through why I chose independent versus deciding to buy the UPS store that I was looking at purchasing, and then going through, what my startup costs looked like,
Perfect.
really like what are the costs, and it's so crazy that it's so just straightforward. And as an
Yeah.
independent store, you still can partner with UPS, FedEx, and the postal service.
Yeah. And you're going to go through all of that on July 10th.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I don't know if you're going to do this, but I'm going to ask anyway. Are you also going to show kind of the revenue model or potential that you've seen? Because again, you've been in it 6 years, so people can really
Yeah.
get the picture of what this might look like.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go over, not only
Wow.
my top line numbers, but, that's the nice thing is that this is a 50% margin industry. I mean, when I had a
Seriously?
bakery, yes, when I had a bakery, we were lucky if our margins were kind of like 35%.
Okay.
Like, yeah, there was a year, what year was it when it was the avian bird flu? Do you remember that?
Oh
It was
yeah.
like
When
a
was
bird
that?
flu and the price of eggs shot up. Do you remember that?
I do remember.
Yeah,
Yes.
that screwed us for like months because
Eggs.
our cost on our goods, right? On all
Oh,
our baking cost, like everything shot up. And we were just like, well, it's not like we can turn around and just like shoot up the price of our
yeah.
cupcakes, right? And
Pass
so
it through.
we
Yeah.
were just eating that cost literally for
Oh,
months. It was like almost 6 months. We were just like, this is terrible.
oh,
So
yeah. No more restaurants for Lisa. That's what I'm
no
taking
more
away from this.
restaurants, no more perishable products. I don't want them anymore.
There you go. There you go. I also seen that you're going to be at Limitless. I think this is the third year in a row you're going.
Yes.
You're also
Yeah.
speaking, if I understand the
Yeah.
agenda.
Yeah.
Very
Super
cool.
excited to be speaking there. This is like hands down one of my favorite conferences to not only speak at, but also as an attendee, I get to go, right? As a speaker, I get to go as an attendee. Um, Amazing. Because what I love is like Ken literally just picks up the phone and he like calls all his Ken McElroy, picks up
Right.
the phone, calls all his friends, and is like, hey, I'm gonna put together like a conference. And that was how the first year started. And it was literally everyone who's on stage has some sort of personal connection to Ken and Tarl. And it's wild. Like they're very strict about it, where they're just like, look, like we want this to be tactical and helpful, and we want people in the audience to be the doers already. And so I met so many real estate investors. I've met so many just amazing people, who weren't even speakers; they were attendees. In the space, in the industry, and it's so much fun too, because Ken is fun, and so
Yeah.
anything he puts together is always fun. So you should come. You should come down. It's in Dallas
Yeah,
this
I
year.
should I should check that out. I know a lot of folks in my community have talked about Limitless. So if you're going to be there, Lisa will be there. Make sure you go say hi.
Yeah.
tag me on Instagram or something. That'd be fun to see the connection of the group. What are the final things we need to know? We need to tell the audience about July 10th, 3 p.m.
Yeah, I'll share the link with you so you can put it in the show notes in the comments.
Of course.
Totally free to come register, and it's just a 1 hour webinar that I'm going to host. I find that these webinars are kind of the best way to disseminate all the information really expansively to a large audience. I usually put clips up on social media, but we always end up getting questions, right? I get a lot of DMs about it, and it's a lot of the same questions over and over. And so going to host the webinar to talk about the independent mailbox rental pack and ship store model, why I like it, how I've benefited from it, and just how a low lift it is to be able to execute on your own.
Yeah, when I kind of prepared for this, what I saw and coming up on July 10th is really inspiring because you're going to help people create small businesses. Main Street, we are the backbone of America. I love your concept of doers, not talkers. I do think a lot of folks in my world, right? I talk about do the work all the time. They kind of lean that direction. I do like the idea that you're going to talk about independent versus franchise. A lot of people do look at franchises. They perceive it as easier. I'm not sure it is
Yeah.
easier. I know it's
Yeah.
more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and they
there's a
look at it
lot
as like
there.
safer, and maybe for some industries, it that might be the case, right?
Maybe.
But I think for this, independent stores, the mailbox rental pack and ship stores, shipping in general for this, I'm like, why do I need to pay franchise fees, monthly franchise fees, monthly marketing fees, an annual franchise fee,
Jeez.
when really I'm able to partner with
Yeah.
UPS, FedEx, and the Postal
Yeah, you get
Service.
all
So I'm
three.
not even excluded from any of them.
Yeah. And then the last thing we haven't talked about, which I think is the cherry on top, you were at one time, I believe, doing quarterly calls with this growing community. Did I know right?
Yeah,
You're doing freaking weekly now?
I'm
What's
doing
that all
freaking
about?
weekly calls. I know it's every Monday. I'm doing these calls live in person on Zoom with our mailbox community that we've created, and it's awesome. Like I was doing quarterly, like you had mentioned, and I've been doing quarterly since last fall. So, rounding the corner into June of this year, as the community has grown, and now we have like 30 stores that have been opened by the community, which is pretty amazing, like all
Oh,
around the
yeah.
country. So I was like, okay, like if my personal goal with this, if success to me is seeing every student through this community actually go open a store, how do
Mhm.
we support that, right? What does that
Yep.
look like? And we're just like, we've got to have more interaction, right? We
Yeah.
have to have more live interaction. And so
Totally
we're
agree.
like, let's do weekly calls. So
Yeah. And I
yeah,
think what you're going to
it's awesome.
find, I think what you're going to find is, maybe it's 6 months from now, you're going to have to miss a Monday because of, I don't know, family wedding or, some other thing, but somebody else is going to step up and they're going to take the week, and you're going to have these little folks that just allow you to spread your wings and help more people, right? Because you already mentioned you got 30 stores in a year. That's almost one a
I
week.
know. Isn't that crazy? It's so amazing. Like I'm always just like astonished and humbled that like, it's one thing to get all the material and like kind of go through it A to Z, right? Like here's the blueprint, here's what you need to start out with, here are the vendors, here's the whatever, here's the criteria, right? But then after that is really when the hard work starts,
Sure. For
right?
sure.
Like starting
Yeah.
the store is actually the hard work, and then starting it and maintaining it. And now, when you're in your first year, we joke, we call it the trough of sorrows. Like
I like that.
right? It's the trough of sorrows when you're in your first year of any small business, right? Because you just feel like you're like throwing money at this thing, and you're like, when is this going to happen for me?
Yeah. When does it come back to me? It only
When
goes
does it come
one
back to
way.
me? Yes, but I've been amazed by my students. And one of them in particular, Leslie, she opened Ship Arizona down in Benson, Arizona. She hit break even in month 4, and she made a
Yeah.
$70 profit month 5 after all
Good
her
for her.
expenses. I was like, I don't know what I was doing, but it took me
You didn't
18
do that?
months, to break even on my 2 stores. But I was just like, this is incredible. So it's been
Oh,
really
yeah.
awesome.
Well, Lisa, just keep doing what you're doing. Lean into this. There's more goodness coming for you and the community. July 10th, 3 p.m. Folks, declare your freedom from franchises with the independent model. We will put a link in the show notes below. Lisa, take care. Have fun.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.